The Secretary-General of the ANC addressing that news briefing just a short time ago. Well, as we mentioned a little earlier, obviously opposition parties in Cape Town that are already calling for the dissolution of Parliament and clamouring for that no-confidence debate would have been watching proceedings at Luthuli House very carefully. Let's go back live now to Cape Town as the story continues to pick up pace. Lester Kivett, I think that you have a couple of senior opposition party representatives who no doubt are very eager to weigh in.
That's right, Jeremy. Outside the National Assembly chamber, where opposition parties are ready to give their reaction to the announcement by the ANC's Secretary General Nkabayomzi Kwankwa, the UDM's chief whip. Firstly, the UDM's initial reaction to this announcement that the president has been recalled by the ANC, but for now still remains in his job. Where does this leave Parliament, and where does this leave President Jacob Zuma?
Well, we welcome this long overdue decision by the NEC to recall President Zuma. It shows or demonstrates once more that the African National Congress has caved into the amount of pressure that we've been applying consistently since 2009. Because they have now all of a sudden realized that he's not the right man for the job. But I think what we want to say, Lester, it's unfortunate that after the ANC had made the nation wait for almost a week, more than a week, to say that it was going to bring this matter to finality, once again it has showed once more that it has dexterity in the art of procrastination, because it still says to the nation, we've spoken to President Zuma, but there's no deadline on the matter. What guarantee is there that the president will, when he addresses South Africa tomorrow, that he's going to resign? What guarantee is there that President Zuma will resign tomorrow? What if he resigns next week? So they should have given him clear timelines to say it's either you comply with what we're saying or we're going to take a decision, and make that clear to the nation, because that is what the nation wants. Because we want to move on with our lives. We want to start focusing on rebuilding our nation and forget about President Zuma. He's been a factor in our politics and in our country for far too long.
We now move to the Freedom Front Plus's Peter Groenewald. With this concept of recall, it's nowhere to be found in the South African Constitution, but the ANC has that right to recall its deployee. Where does this leave us constitutionally? What is now the role of Parliament, as you as MPs, to seemingly get South Africa through this process? Or are we merely in the hands of President Jacob Zuma and the ANC?
Well, let's first say that all political parties have the right to recall their members. But from a constitutional view, we must say that the only way you can get rid of the president is by way of a motion of no confidence or by way of a motion of impeachment. So at the moment we are still busy with the rules when it comes to impeachment. So what is left, if we really want to get rid of President Zuma, is to come forward with a motion of no confidence. Now, South Africa heard today that the time has come for Zuma to leave, but still we don't have the time. And therefore, the Freedom Front Plus say that Parliament must continue. There was some insinuation from the ANC to say that the parliamentary processes will continue. I think if we really want to remove Zuma, and if the ANC is serious to remove President Zuma, then they must negotiate with the EFF that the EFF withdraw their motion of no confidence and then allow the ANC to put in a new motion of no confidence. Because if they do that, of course, then we are guaranteed that the motion will be successful. And the moment the motion has been adopted by the National Assembly constitutionally, then President Zuma is no more the President of South Africa.
Yourself in the ANC shoes, if you had your deployee as head of state and there's already a motion of no confidence brought forward by a different party, would you vote in with that party to remove your deployee as president, as head of state?
That's why I say if we want to be successful, then they must negotiate that the EFF withdraw their motion of no confidence, because that is exactly what you say. I don't think there's any political party in the world who will allow an opposition party to get rid of their leader, because that is actually political suicide. Because after that they will say, but you couldn't handle your crises, you had to come to us to assist you. And therefore, that's why I make the proposal that they withdraw it. We've seen it even in the city of Cape Town, where the ANC wanted to come with a motion of no confidence against the mayor, and the DA then said, well, in that case, they're not going to support it. Only when the DA themselves come with a motion of no confidence, then it will be successful.
Peter Groenewald of the Freedom Front Plus. Just one more guest that we have here, Reverend Kenneth Mesher of the ACDP. Reverend, in terms of how the ANC finds its conscience now, do you think that the ANC has any moral ground to stand on after the last a few years, turning down motions of no confidence, talking in support of President Jacob Zuma, and now with less than 16 months to a general election, now says it wants to remove President Jacob Zuma as head of state?
Well, what the ANC has done now, a move that we welcome, is to try and save face. They have been criticized by both their members and non-members for inactivity and for doing nothing about a president that the whole country is complaining about, that we are in a mess economically, we are in a mess politically, the investors are complaining about political uncertainty in the country. They had to do something to save face. But what they have done cannot remove the president from office. People have to understand that on paper they have said we are recalling the president, but because it is not the NEC that put him there but Parliament, only Parliament can remove him. So if they are serious about removing the president, recalling the president, if they are serious, then they should talk to the EFF and say, guys, we know that our motion cannot go before yours. You were the first to come with a motion of no confidence. Or alternatively, they should humble themselves and say, we agree with the opposition on this matter. Even though some people say it will be political suicide, but they can say, we want to put the interests of the country before the interests of a political party. So in this case, because we want the President Zuma to leave, we'll support the opposition party, even if it will be the first time such a thing happens. We understand that there's always the first time. Okay, a risk can be taken for the sake of a broader outcome, which is saving the nation from what we're going through now.
Reverend, I want you to take off your hat as a politician and put on your hat as a man of the cloth. And what are your thoughts surrounding President Jacob Zuma at this time? Obviously, for any head of state, it must be a knock to one's confidence, knock to one's self-esteem when your own party decides to recall you, and in the National Assembly a vote of no confidence looming over you. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, obviously the ball is in his hands. If he does not want to be humiliated or to be recalled by his party, then he must step down. That's as easy as that. He can say, well, for the sake of my nation that I love so much, for the sake of the people that have been so anxious about their future, I'm stepping down voluntarily, just as Mr. Thabo Mbeki did. When we had Thabo Mbeki as the president, when the ANC said, we recall you, he didn't debate with them. He just, no problem. He left. That's why the transition was smooth. The President Jacob Zuma can also ensure that transition is smooth by saying, I don't want to be humiliated. And I'm an elderly man. I've been in the struggle. I've helped my government and my organization so many times in so many ways. So I voluntarily, for the sake of peace for everybody, peace of heart, peace of mind, I'm stepping down. I would do that if I was in this position.
Now you as a politician, I'm sure the ACDP and all other opposition parties are looking at this moment in our history and looking at the 2019 general election and want to be using this moment as a platform to that. Am I correct?
No, you're correct. The ANC has been indecisive in this matter. They've been indecisive. And they've been talking about being disciplined cadres. I've heard even President Zuma say he's a disciplined cadre. Now, how does a disciplined cadre refuses to take instruction from the NEC? The NEC says, step down, and he says, I refuse. Okay? His family says, don't resign. So he decided to side with what his family has said, and then it's not according to what he has been claiming to be a disciplined cadre, showing how a disciplined cadre should behave.
Reverend Kenneth Mesher of the ACDP giving us some opposition reacts for now. Come to us back shortly, Jeremy, when we have more opposition reacts here from outside the National Assembly on that announcement by the ANC that President Jacob Zuma has officially been recalled as president by his party. Now just waiting for the president to either accept those terms, to resign, or whether does the stage now move to Parliament, where a vote of no confidence could very well be on the cards for President Jacob Zuma.